Have you ever woken up at 2 in the morning and your chest was tight? Not sick, no bad dream, just tight. And you lie there in the dark doing math in your head, running numbers you already know by heart: rent, car payment, insurance, groceries, that subscription you keep forgetting to cancel. You aren't even holding a calculator. You're just lying there, staring at the ceiling, doing financial arithmetic at 2 a.m. like some kind of broke accountant. And here's the thing that messes with you. You know the money comes in. Every 2 weeks, like clockwork, the deposit hits, you breathe for maybe 48 hours, and then slowly, quietly, the account drains back down, like water through a cracked bucket, and the tightness comes back. That's not a budgeting problem. That's not a you are bad with money problem. That's your nervous system telling you something is wrong. And today, I want to talk about what's actually wrong, because it's not what most finance YouTubers are going to tell you. Because $80,000 a year is not a poor person's income, but a lot of people making $80,000 a year feel exactly like I just described. And if you've ever felt that, this video is for you. My name's Adam, and I spent years watching smart, hardworking people stay broke, not because they lacked money, but because their brains were secretly wired to spend every dollar the moment it arrived. That's not a discipline problem, that's survival mode. And today, I'm going to show you the one shift that changes everything. I'm not here to sell you a course. I'm not here to tell you to cut your lattes. Look, I genuinely do not care about your lattes. What I care about is this. Why do people who earn good money still feel financially terrified? And more importantly, what's the brain actually doing when that happens? Because once you understand that, everything else starts to make sense. Let's talk about what $80,000 a year actually looks like. In most of the United States, after federal and state taxes, you're taking home somewhere between $52,000 and $58,000. Let's call it 55. That's about $4,500 a month landing in your account. Now, before you even think about anything else, rent or mortgage on a modest place could be anywhere from $1,400 to $2,200, depending on where you live. Car payment, insurance, gas, another $500 to $700. Groceries, utilities, phone, another $600 to $800. Health insurance, if it's not fully covered, another $200 to $400. And we're already looking at roughly $3,200 to $3,600 gone before you've done a single fun thing or saved a single dollar. That leaves you maybe $800 to $1,300 a month for everything else: clothes, restaurants, unexpected car repairs, medical bills, travel, gifts, social life, emergencies. And here's the thing that nobody talks about. That remaining amount feels like freedom money. Your brain registers it as money you have, and so you spend it. Not recklessly, just normally. A dinner here, a concert there, an online order you don't remember placing, and boom, the month is over. Nothing saved. That's not a weakness. That's your brain functioning exactly as it was designed to function in a world it wasn't designed for. Here's where we get into the part that actually matters: brain chemistry. There are, broadly speaking, two modes your brain can operate in when it comes to money. I call them financial survival mode and wealth building mode. And the difference between them isn't income, it's not discipline, it's not intelligence, it's neurological wiring, and it's almost entirely driven by a relationship with financial stress. Financial survival mode is reactive, fear-based. It lives in the part of your brain called the amygdala, the threat detection center. When your amygdala is activated, your brain is doing one thing: eliminate the threat right now. It's not thinking about next year. It's not thinking about compound interest. It's thinking, I feel anxious, and spending this money on something will make that anxiety go away for the next 6 hours. That's dopamine. When you buy something, anything, your brain releases a small hit of dopamine. Temporary relief, temporary silence of the anxiety. This is why retail therapy is a real, documented psychological phenomenon. And look, it doesn't even have to be a shopping spree. It can be ordering delivery instead of cooking, upgrading your phone a year early, buying a slightly nicer car than you needed. Every single one of those decisions felt rational in the moment because your brain presented them as rational, because your brain was in survival mode. And survival mode doesn't think in decades, it thinks in hours. Now, contrast that with wealth building mode. This is proactive, opportunity based. It operates primarily from your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for long term planning, delayed gratification, and abstract thinking. When your prefrontal cortex is in charge of financial decisions, you're not asking what will make me feel better right now. You're asking what will this decision cost me in 10 years? That's a fundamentally different question, and it produces fundamentally different behavior. Here's what's wild though. These two modes aren't fixed. You're not born into one or the other permanently. They're states, and they're heavily influenced by your environment, your stress levels, your sleep, your social circle, and something most people never consider, your baseline financial beliefs. If you grew up in a household where money was always tight, always stressful, always the subject of arguments and anxiety, your brain learned a specific lesson. It learned money is a crisis, and when it arrives, use it before it disappears. That was a rational response to your childhood environment. The problem is your brain is still running that program at 32 years old, making $80,000 a year. That's not a character flaw. That's just outdated software running on expensive hardware. So what's the shift? What actually changes things? I'm going to tell you, and I want you to hear this carefully because it sounds almost too simple and I don't want you to dismiss it. The shift is treating your future self like a bill. That's it. That's the whole thing. But let me explain what I mean. Right now, when your paycheck arrives, your brain's default sequence is bills first, then live on what's left, and save whatever remains. And because whatever remains is often zero, nothing gets saved. This is called paying yourself last. Almost everyone does this, and it doesn't work. Paying yourself first isn't a new concept, but here's the part that people miss. The psychological reason it works isn't about math. It's about interrupting the survival mode cycle before it starts. When you automate a transfer to savings or investments the moment your paycheck lands, before you have a chance to feel the money, see the money, or make any decisions about the money, you're removing the decision from your amygdala's jurisdiction entirely. You're not relying on willpower. You're not relying on discipline in a moment of stress. You're building a system that bypasses the threat response loop altogether. Look, willpower is a finite resource. Every financial influencer who tells you that the key is just discipline is setting you up to fail, because discipline depletes. It's like a muscle that gets tired. If your system requires you to make the right decision every single day, perfectly, with no margin for a bad week or a rough month, your system is broken. What doesn't deplete is automation. A savings transfer that happens automatically on the second of every month doesn't care that you had a terrible week. It doesn't care that you're stressed. It just moves every time. And over time, something remarkable happens. Your baseline shifts because you start to see a number that's growing, not a number that resets to zero every 30 days, a number that compounds. And your brain, your actual brain chemistry, starts to associate money not with anxiety and depletion, but with accumulation and possibility. That's the transition from survival mode to wealth building mode. And it doesn't happen from reading a book. It happens from experiencing, repeatedly, that money can grow when you let it. Let me make this concrete. At $55,000 take home a year, you have $4,500 a month. If you automate just 10%, $450 into a retirement or investment account on payday, you're building toward financial security in a real compounding way. That's $5,400 a year. Invested consistently over 20 years with average market returns, that's potentially more than $200,000 from one habit, one automation that you set up once and never have to think about again. Now, some of you are going to say, I can't afford $450 a month. And I hear you. Then start at $150, start at $50. The amount matters far less in the beginning than the pattern, because you're not just building savings, you're rewiring your relationship with money. You're teaching your brain with evidence that you're someone who accumulates, not just someone who survives month to month. And that identity shift is worth more than any specific dollar amount in any specific account. So for the here and now about feeling poor at $80,000 a year, it's real. It's not imagined. It's not a weakness. It's the entirely predictable result of a brain running survival mode programming in a financial environment it was never equipped to navigate instinctively. But survival mode is not your destiny, it's your default, and defaults can be changed. One automation, one shift in sequencing, one decision to treat your future self like a creditor that actually matters. That's where it starts. If this is different for you, if you've been feeling that 2 a.m. tightness and you finally have a word for why, drop it in the comments. I read them. And if you know someone making decent money who still feels broke, share this with them, because this is the conversation most money channels are too focused on spreadsheets to have. So for now, go watch this video and you'll find more answers to your questions. See you there.